Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today, and we're going to cover a couple of subjects, but specifically, if I can spit the words out, we're going to talk about pre and post fader sends and what they are and what you can use them for, and I'm going to cover a couple of other little rabbit trail topics here, but basically to concentrate on the pre and post fader sends. And let me just back this up here and just kind of explain what we're doing here. And I appreciate you listening to my bagpipes, and I'm going to make you listen to them again. I'm going to dig them out of the dumpster, and I'm going to play through it again. But this time when I play it through, I'm going to bring your attention to a couple of things. I've got the bagpipe tracks here. These are basically 4 tracks, 3 in the beginning and 1 kicks in a little later, and a couple of sound effects. And we're going to concentrate on these tracks right here, the bagpipes. And when you listen to this playback again, note that what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to bring the bagpipes are coming from a distance. They're soaked really wet in reverb, and they're going to come forward and sound like they're coming towards us here. And I've got a couple of tracks of sound effects here to kind of help out with that. But specifically, I want to try to give that movement of the bagpipes from far away to coming up close to us here. And let me just play that, and you can hear that, and then I'm going to show you how I accomplish that. And here we go. Bagpipes kind of far away in the distance. Getting closer. And there we have it here. Like I say, kind of far away, and then hopefully sounding like they're coming closer. And let me show you how we can do that. And we're using what's called a pre-fader send to accomplish this, among other things. But that's basically the main topic of this. Let me just kind of go over a couple of other things here. First, I've got our favorite instrument, the bagpipes. I've got basically in 3 channels here. And I've got a 4th one coming in later. A couple of sound effects. That's my crowd yelling and some footsteps. But specifically, I have these 6 channels being controlled by a VCA fader, and that's all the VCA fader does, is just to control the faders. It does nothing else. Okay, and I can control click that and get that back to 0 dB. I also have these channels all going to this bus, so this bus controls the volume of these channels here. Okay, where this controls the fader. Basically, this is real similar, and I'm not going to get into the differences here, except on my bus channel, you see I can have some inserts. The VCA just is only for the faders. Also, I have an effects channel that I'm routing an effects. You see on each of these channels here, I'm routing an effects, and I'm going to this effects channel. And in the insert, I've inserted an instance of a Valhalla vintage verb, one of my favorite reverbs. I've got a nice long decay on it, a little pre-delay, etc., and then I've got the mix sent to 100%, and that's normally what you would do on an effects channel, because I want just totally the wet signal from the reverb to come through, and I don't need any of the dry. But let me just kind of show you the sends here. When they're orange like this, this is called pre-fader. If I flip them to blue, that makes them post-fader. And let me explain a little bit more in depth than that. The pre-fader means that these sends go out to the send to my effects channel pre-fader. Now, typically the fader on most mixers, if not all, are the last item in the signal chain. Think of your signal just kind of coming in and working down is an easy way kind of to generalize. And then the last thing is the fader controls the volume. Now, if I have this send pre-fader, that means that when I can turn this fader down, it's not going to affect the signal on my going to my effects send here, or my Basically, this is a fader here. Okay. Go into my effects. And let me play this, and this will maybe help clear this up a little bit. I've got some automation going on, and let me just scroll to that, and you can kind of see that. A couple channels here. And this automation is for these two channels here, the bus channel and the effects channel. And I'm going to turn this off just so I can manually control that. So I can click here, automation off. And let me just play a little bit of it here, and this will help demonstrate exactly what's going on. And I'm going to put these all to post fader. So when I turn down the fader here on these channels, that's also going to keep these in ratio, but these are going to be turned down as well. And so if I go ahead and play this, and I'll go ahead and solo it so we can just hear our favorite instruments here. So I'll just solo this bus. By turning down the bus, these channels are still active, but I'm turning down my dry signal. Or I can turn down them all with my VCA fader. So I've got a couple of choices here. Now let me just show you. I've got this set to where I've got a light amount of effect. Let me raise the effect of the reverb here. Okay, and now as I turn this down, bring these faders down, you're going to notice, since these are post fader, which normally is the default, everything's going to come down, the reverb and everything, because I'm turning down these sends as well. And let me show you that. You can hear it turning down everything. Okay, and this is where it gets fun. I'm going to change these to pre-fader. So as I bring this down, bring these faders down, these are not affected. I'm still sending, and note the signal going to my effects here. And so let me go ahead and play that. And I'm going to go ahead and turn down my bustle just a little bit here. So you heard that moving these faders doesn't do anything to my reverb. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit more confusing, but a little bit more specific. And I'm trying to keep this as clear as I can. If you have any questions, post them down below and I'll try to get to them. Since I've got all these channels going to a bus, I'm going to consider this my dry sound, because I want to start out with a very low reverb sound and then bring up the dry sound. And that's where these automation fades come in here. And then if you just kind of watch my cursor in the fade, you'll see what's going on, or you can watch the fader here. And so I'm going to go ahead and put these back on read, and they will follow this. So I'm going to start out to where just the reverb sound comes in, and that's going to make it sound very far distance. Okay, but I don't want a full reverb, full fader. I don't want it too loud. I want it quiet, heavily reverberated sound, and to give it that distant sound. And then as the tracks move on, I'm going to bring in the dry sound coming from all the channels going to there. So let me give you a listen to this here. See my effects channel going up. The reverb gets louder, and here comes my dry signal on the bus. Note my envelopes. Let me do that again. I'm going to make you dumpster dive and listen to my bagpipes again here. But watch these faders again here. They're following these envelopes. This is the automation. and you can hear what's happening here. Quieter reverb, slowly increasing. Here comes the dry. And this is a very common example of how you would use something as a pre-fader. Another typical example where you might use this, say you have a kick drum. Say this is a kick drum channel, and you want to side chain over to your bass guitar. And so every time the kick happens, it's going to side chain, and I bring down the bass guitar so your kick can sound through, the two don't conflict, and that's very common. But say my kick drum was a little too loud, and I don't want to affect the amount of side chain that I'm sending to the bass guitar, and so I can lower my kick volume, but I'm still, since I'm pre-fader, this send is going before my fader, I'm not bringing down this in ratio, this is still being sent to my bass channel, and so I'm still sending a nice healthy signal to my bass channel to side chain it, and I can, gives me total freedom to adjust the level of my kick drum without affecting the side chain. And that's another popular example. You can use it for a variety of other things, but something like the reverb that I just showed you here, and the kick drum with a bass, that's another popular example, and it makes a great use of a pre-fader. Another use, and I'm just going to run it through this, say you have a send going to a Q mix. Okay, this is going to your musicians. If I'm listening in the control room to my main faders here, I can go ahead and adjust, say, my bass guitar, my snare drum, and et cetera here, guitars, and I'm not affecting this Q mix because my Q mix is going to stay the same for my musicians. It's all pre-fader, these faders here. So think of it as a separate thing here. And like I say, we got a little bit more involved with the routing, so I can go ahead and increase my wet signal on my reverb, and bring up my dry signal so I can adjust those independently. This is not the only way to do it, but this is a very easy way to do it in Studio One, and you can hear the effect. And hopefully it's all as clear as mud, and I'll just go ahead and back it up so we can listen to it again from the top as we say our goodbyes. And thanks a lot, guys. Again, if you have any questions, put them down below, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can, and clear up any misconceptions or questions or snigglets or whatever you want to call them. But thanks again, guys, and we'll catch you in the next video. Talk to you later.